And hello, everyone. Trooper and I are doing an impromptu roundtable, and hopefully, other folks will jump on. Um, we just wanted to talk today about the looming deadline. And the only thing I wanted to say, the reason I was, we've been all talking about doing a stream today. I wanted to get, personally, the way I feel is I wanted to get our voice or my voice on the record saying I'm against all this bullshit in Iran. I'm against escalating. I'm against whatever they're going to do. And I want to be on the record as I'm standing against what Trump is talking about doing. So,
I,
with
I
that,
absolutely concur with that. Yeah.
because I'm like, if what I see happening looks like a war crime, and at least I want to be on the record. God heard me say this is fucking bullshit, and we shouldn't do it. Anyway, Troop, why don't you say what you got to
The,
say?
I'm 100% all in on that, and I'm more, as you guys probably figured out, close to what the civilian outcome of these actions are, and I don't. We look at things from a geopolitical space and from a what's the outcome going to be for the world economy and the stability of the planet and all that. But at the end of the day, when you have rockets hitting apartment buildings and blowing up infrastructure, you're going to have civilian casualties. And when you peel back the layers from king to politician to captain of industry to globalist, and you get all the way down on the street where a citizen and their family live and work, regardless of what nationality they are, that's bad. That they don't feel safe leaving their homes because the school or the market or their house or something might blow up, and they're not on a battlefield. They're not soldiers. They're not out there fighting for their country for good or bad. When you start attacking people inside of their own cities, it ain't good. And this is the same with the Ukrainians and the Russians, hurling missiles each way into their city space. Certainly the genocide in Gaza, this military activity in Iran, and even the launching rockets over Tel Aviv. These are civilian populated areas, and so what Trump is proposing at the scale that he's capable of prosecuting targets, this would be, I wouldn't put it in the category of genocide, but it would have a cataclysmic effect on the civilians in Iran, and I think it's just way beyond the level of heavy-handedness that would be appropriate for this.
Well, and also it's like everything all of us in the military, we had to do every 6 months or a year, I think it was, a class on LOAC, Law of Armed Combat, and everything we're doing right now, as far as attacking civilian infrastructure with civilians present, is a violation of that, and not making an effort to protect civilians is, for me, the clearest thing was the video of the bridge getting hit the other day, or another good example is the girls at the school getting hit. But anyway, that's my 2 cents right
Yeah, I
now.
mean, these laws of war, and I was an enlisted Army guy, and I mean, we're talking basic PLDC, primary leadership and development. There's literally, or there was a like they have these multiple choice questions, these leadership assessment questions, and one of them, I'm going to paraphrase, but it said almost exactly this. You're leading your platoon into a hostile area where there's an enemy sniper up in the bell tower of a historic building in the center of a village. What are your options? And like the first one was just go balls out and charge the building, the historic building, with all your guys in the open, and suffer a lot of casualties, try to get to the door. The second one was call in an artillery or an airstrike on the entire town and fucking level it and the building and the guy in it and everything else, kill a bunch of people. And then the third one was, maneuver around and, try to engage it more precisely, which was obviously the right answer. And it seems like the right answer every single time with this current doctrine is, no, we'll just drop JDAMs on the church and everything else around the church, and then we'll let God sort them out. And that is absolutely not, taking due care of civilian collateral, avoiding collateral damage of civilians. This is intentionally inflicting collateral damage on civilians.
Yes. And it's been really interesting. Like Tucker Carlson had a great monologue last night that discussed this in detail. Alex Jones has been talking, saying the same things today. That Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis had a podcast this morning saying basically the same things. And, you know, it's just really terrible to see what's going on with our leadership. And I mean, this is against everything I've ever stood for as a military officer and things that I swore that I would stop and not allow to happen. Um, I remember, I mean, I'm just bringing up my own stories, but like I was at the concentration camp of Dachau in Germany when I was 17, and I thought about it when I was there, and I was like, whatever happens when I'm in the military, at because I planned on being in the military already at that point. I was like, I will never ever participate in something like this, and it's why I stand, serve, why I served, and why I'm here to fight against fucking evil. Excuse my French.
I'm
Trying to get back
100%
in
on board with that, man. I got out of the military because of the interactions with the EPWs, the enemy prisoners of war, that we encountered. These guys are, surrendering en masse, and we're going in and we're zipping them up, getting them out of there. And they were emaciated, dirty, petrified, scared, no leadership, no morale, just fucking abused, cannon fodder. And you go into that with the mindset of at our age, we had the any American that gets captured is going to go to a concentration camp, and we always have shown humanity and compassion for enemy prisoners of war. We take care of them. So I'm out there thinking, fuck, these guys got fucking hammered, right? But they're gonna go back to the rear. They're gonna get a shower, and they're gonna get chow, medical care. They're just gonna chill out till this thing's over. They're gonna get to go back home. No animosity. And what crystallized in my mind was that these weren't the hardcore Nazis or the Viet Cong or the all these badass um, enemies that were like highly trained, highly have a lot of tenacity, a lot of training. These were literally just fucking conscripts that they just dumped out in the middle of the desert, and then we fucking bombed the shit out of them for 6 months, and then we sent a cavalry regiment to go mow over motherfuckers, and then there they were, right? Oh, okay, we're done. And it made me feel exactly the same way. Like I wasn't. I don't like the term warrior. I actually kind of despise that term. Yeah, I'm a soldier. I was a soldier, so I try to do my job the best I can, whatever the mission is. You assume it's a lawful mission, and I don't have any animosity towards another soldier who's trying to take my life, because I know that they aren't the politician that made the decision why we're both on the battlefield. You know what I mean? But that's just kind of how it goes. And if you're prosecuting military targets in a military engagement, unfortunately, like when you're in the city, sometimes you're going to have collateral damage. Civilians are going to get in the way. But if you're intentionally going into a fucking city and blowing up shit that is going to kill civilians, and it's going to damage and harm civilians, it doesn't matter who those civilians are in my mind. And the other thing is, it's definitely taken the gloves off as far as they already have the means and the capability to attack targets in the United States. We've all, and I've talked about the stratification of threat. Well, the only deterrent to a lot of that was, well, if we fuck with the Americans, they're going to level Tehran. So we better not. We've pre-designated targets. We have a plan for that, but let's not go there yet because they'll fuck us up. Well, literally the worst possible outcome that they could have triggered from the United States and retribution has already fucking happened. So there's nothing stopping them. There's nothing stopping them now.
What you just said fits exactly the comment American Forecasting made there. He says the karmic consequences will be so severe moving past this. And that's exactly what Tucker said last night. And it fits exactly what Bracken has said in the past about people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And sometimes I wonder, is this all set up so they can get someone to attack our grid so they can bring in their control grid? I mean, I'm going into conspiracy theory now, but it's definitely opening us up to attack.
Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
Okay. We're definitely getting opened up to attack here, and I'm trying to, guys. I'm also trying to see if we can get Pete from WRSA Western Rifle Shooters on. He's in Europe right now, and we're hoping to get him on in a second. But if anybody's got stuff they'd like us to talk about or questions, put them in the comments. American forecasting, you've had some good questions there. Whoever bid it is, it's calling us off base. I'm sorry. That's just how we see it. None of us signed up to engage in genocide, and we're not in none of us want to be in a civilizational war. And Trump is, like Alex Jones said today, I thought was really good. Was he said, um, he's like, I like the old Trump, not the good Trump. Not I like the old Trump, not the new Trump. I support the old Trump and not the new Trump, and that's exactly what um, I think is the right way to look at it. It's like, hey, Trump, go back to what we voted for you for, why we supported you, why we brought you into office, why we, all of us, I bet, listening, and those of us here took personal risks to support Trump being in power and being president. And, you know, I will never do that for the new Trump. I will be fighting to stop the new Trump. If this continues, and in my opinion, if we see the Israelis or um, Trump use nukes or WMDs in Iran, that it almost becomes a moral obligation for us to stop him at that point, because it's against everything that I've ever believed in and supported in life. Let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody told me that American forecasting is actually a lady. Well, sorry about that if I called you a guy. Anyway, I'm trying to think of what else to talk about here. We've pretty much made our stance clear. I was listening to Victor Booth earlier on Infowars was a good one, and the Robert Barnes discussion from last night was also really good. If anyone can catch that, and I guess I don't have a lot of more points to make, but what I was going to just say is that for me, I've been doubling down on getting things that I think we might need, because I think times are going to start getting a lot tougher. I've been making financial moves to try to protect myself from what I think might be coming here in the next couple of weeks, days, months. And looks like we got Pete here.
Hey
Hey,
guys,
Pete,
I had to
welcome.
put up the usual bad loading up here, so sorry for being late.
No worries. No worries. Glad to have you. Troop is offline for a second, and we're just talking. I don't know if you caught the first part, but all of us said that basically we wanted to get our names on record standing against what Trump may be about to do, because I can't countenance not speaking out against it. Oh, take yourself off mute.
I'm right along there with you. I was thinking about all of I was never a federal prosecutor, but New York State had pretty fierce, especially complex criminal behavior. And the reality is what he has done and what he proposes to do at 8 o'clock Eastern this evening. It's a crime. It's a lot of felonies, and that's
100%.
I understand that the president doesn't get charged like a regular criminal, except ultimately they do. So, however we can get our names in there, I'm right along with you.
Yeah, and do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share? I mean, it's just unprecedented. I mean, it's like conduct unbecoming of an officer, unbecoming of a military service member of any rank, is how I
And
see it.
that's one of the titles in my blog post today.
I saw it.
Yeah, and so I'm glad to hear you use that appropriate language, because here's the short version is you can't be doing that, Mr. President, and it's unfortunate that only one the guy from DNI um, handed in his papers. And then I guess there was a whole bunch of flag officer. It was a purge. So, yeah, there are people out there that want to say stop. We just have to join that parade.
So a lot of those officers were relieved. I mean, command staff, that's a political appointment, and you serve at the pleasure of whoever's in charge. So I don't think anybody is really surprised when new leadership comes in that they push out some of the old leadership. But the what was it? The senior Army chaplain, he was pushed out because he allegedly was told that he shouldn't honor any conscientious objector waivers, and he said he wasn't willing to do that. And I don't think people really understand what a conscientious objector was. My uncle served in the Korean War as well as my dad, and my uncle was a conscientious objector, so he ended up being a Navy corpsman. And anybody who's been in a conflict space, you know that the corpsman or the medic, they don't have the easiest job in the world. So being a conscientious objector, it just means that you're not willing to kill another human being. It doesn't mean that you get out of serving in the military in a draft or that you're not going to be in the conflict space. So these are truly religious convictions of people that know that they may literally be in the space where the bullets are flying and they won't have a gun. That's a pretty ballsy commitment to your faith, if you think about it. Yep. And so the senior Army chaplain's being told, nope, motherfucker, you're an 11 Bravo. Here's your rifle, move out. Which if you do that, and they say that anybody that's afraid of their life, they're going to shoot a gun. That's not true. That's not true. Some people just won't. And now you've put that platoon or that unit at risk, because now you have a person that you're expecting to engage the enemy who's not engaging the enemy at that point. It's a very dangerous thing to do. But for those of you who don't know what conscientious objector means, it doesn't mean that you get like a get out of the draft free card. So for that chaplain to be suspended for basically saying, no, my job's not to do that, that's pretty indicative of where we're going as far as this prosecution of civilian targets go overseas, the genocide in Gaza that we've allowed to happen, the human suffering that has been the outcome of that. And you absolutely lose your fucking victim card if you've attacked more of your neighbors than fucking Hitler, and you've literally ran families into ruin and squalor in these mass camps where they're not allowing the right amount of aid in, or if you're with the wrong NGO, you're not going to be able to go in there and help anybody. It's a grift. And I mean, if we're going to talk conspiracies, I'd say the next conspiracy would be, who are the NGOs that are going to be on the rebuild Iraq grift? Who are the Halliburtons of the world that are going to be taking all this money to kind of broker deals to just endlessly waste our U.S. tax dollars on somebody else's nation building exercise?
Right. I was thinking of two things. One was I'm in a chat with a bunch of pilots from my airline, and we were talking, and for me, this kind of clarified it. I brought this up to everybody, and I was like, some of these statements that Trump has made in the last couple of days, especially his Easter one, and I was like, could you make that statement as a PA, as a captain on an airline, and expect to keep your job? Absolutely not. I mean, the number one thing that we are told as, co-pilots by our captain, if we make a PA, their say is, whatever you say, don't say the F word, and on that alone, his statements would not have been allowed as something you'd say in an airline or PA. And I think that's a good judge of what would be acceptable as a president. If you can't say it as an airline captain, you shouldn't be saying it as a president either. But the other thing I think too, that you guys, Troop, you made me think about, is in the karma kind of thing that American Forecasting said, is it's a very small mental leap to go from killing the citizens of your enemy to killing your own citizens if they stand against you.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's basically anybody's an enemy at that point, and they're going to kill anybody who and that's the thing that people need to think about, I think is
which fundamentalist or which fascist is in charge, it depends on who gets killed. And
Exactly.
we saw how that went under the Biden administration, and to see Trump turn into the fascist that everybody said he was is kind of fucking frightening.
Yeah.
Just something I've seen around the scuttlebutt edges of the blog world. You guys hear anything about this not being the actual Trump? There were multiple Bidens and stuff like that, and I think it's just more fluff. But the reality is the guy who did his Easter announcement. That's not the guy who even got sworn in for the second term. There's something different about him, and I don't know whether it is something having to do with brain function and all of that, whether it's Alzheimer's or something like that, or he's just the real him has come out and he doesn't see any reason not to be the real him. But
Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. At the end of the day, they're blowing up capital assets in foreign countries, and there's an entire command staff that supports Trump that could say no, or they could say, Mr. President, that's a great idea, that's a good plan, but we're just not capable of following through with that. We don't have that capability or whatever. I mean, there's ways that you can not marginalize the commander in chief, but you can. I mean, I've had to do that with my own leaders at my level. Kind of let the air out of their big idea plan, so that they don't blow themselves up. So that at the end of the day, there's more than just President Trump involved in this decision making process.
Sorry, I'm looking for something else. I was looking at something else to bring up, some other topics, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Steve says he might jump on in 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't know if I have 30 minutes of words to I'm sure, Troop, you can save the day in that case.
Oh, I could talk for hours, man.
Pete, what about other things that you've seen? Like, I guess you're still in Hungary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to dox you.
Oh, no. It's why I'm back here in my. It's a nice studio, and it was actually quite cheap compared to the hotel when I was here last summer. About a third of what I paid in the hotel. So, but what's interesting now, JD Vance, I think, is still in town here, and there is
Oh, really?
a great, and there for the purpose of standing with Orban and making sure that essentially there's an observation from back on the other side of the pond, because the young people say, and I've talked to a number of them, they say, well, Orban's been around for a long time, and we want somebody new. And I get that. I used to be a young person too, but I think if I had to bet, I would say the majority of people 30 and up, they are standing quietly and not talking about who they're signing up for next Sunday. And if it doesn't go through and the outside guy gets Majeric gets in, Brussels wins. And if Brussels wins, then Europe continues to spin downward. If if Orban does win, he'll be one of four in the the Central European part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and all that stuff. But it's quiet. I talked to some people who were here for the last excuse me, election, and they were saying they were getting out of town next weekend. That especially with what has changed over the last 4 years, it is not clear to them that being in town where you live on a Sunday is not necessarily a place where you want to be, given how how fractured the two parties are. Because this is not Hungarian versus everybody else in Europe, which is bad enough. But they really want Orban and all of Orban's people out. So we'll see. I don't think it's good for anything to have Orban out. But then again, I'm 67 years old, so I see differently.
What's your impression of how people feel there about everything in Iran?
I haven't seen anybody talking about it, and I don't think, let's put it this way, Hungary is very Catholic, and I think if you knew them and they knew you, they would come out and they would say something akin to, I think, what we're all saying, which is there's a time that judicious action needs to be taken, and not just to, you know, pull off whatever the president is trying to pull off. Because I've, you know, the nice thing about not drinking in decades is I'm reasonably clear in the head, and I don't really see the justification for what is supposed to be coming tonight.
Right.
And and I don't want to say the H name or any of the funny mustache guy or any of that, but this is bad.
Right.
And given that it's coming from, and again, no disrespect to anybody who is of whatever you know, Christian faith, but I grew up in the church. My mom and my grandmother were church ladies, so there was no escaping for this kid. So I rang bells and passed plates and all that stuff. And it was a Methodist organization in the mid 60s. And I learned that just because you say the ministerial or reverential things, that doesn't mean you mean it. And I think there's been a lot of that. And the last thing we need as Americans is to be, you know, throwing off everything and just going along with what the people that Trump has surrounded himself with. This female, I think it's Sally White. It's a last name White,
Right.
but I don't know where she came from. I knew Susan Wiles has been there a lot. Has been as basically a day-to-day person for the president, but this so-and-so White, it's like she came in for the express purpose of, you know, having a war with Iran, which is unbelievable to me. But that's what is happening on the blogs and on the feeds, and it's wrong. I mean, fundamentally, it doesn't matter what people think. Is it right or is it wrong? And it's wrong. So that's why.
It doesn't help that your spiritual advisor is like a fucking female version of Emperor Palpatine, and they're they're feeding. I mean, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, and were we so lucky to have Palpatine?
Yeah. Alex Jones was comparing Trump to Anakin, to Darth Vader today on the, you know, that the Zionist globalists or whatever you want to call them, you know, Netanyahu's or the Emperor Palpatines, and Trump is acting like Darth Vader, you know, in some ways.
So at the head of this, I did a little kind of a threat summary, and so a lot of the summaries come from assessments, and they're like the cliff notes. The major thing is that China and Russia are the only grown-ups in the room right now. And at like day one of this, I went, okay, where is this going to go? Because Iran represents a significant amount of the Chinese border, and all three of them are allies, and all three of them are connected by the Caspian Sea, and all three of them have been allies, you know, for the last 80 years, and even longer. I mean, the Russian and Iranian relationship goes back, you know, 1,000 years. So China is getting a lot of its energy from Iran, and so is, Russia and Iran have a mutual support function, and they have those two uncontested spaces, if you think about it, three, if you think about it. So you have the Caspian Sea, you have kind of the connection over the Caucasus states, which are in contention right now. You have a shared border between Russia and China, and then a shared border between China and Iran, and then you have that whole eastern shoreline, between Japan and everybody else there. So if you disrupt the Iranians' ability to produce goods, whether it's processing, oil or shipping oil or machine parts or drone components for the Russians or whatever, that significantly and directly inhibits Chinese and Russian economic prosperity, national security, and a whole host of other things, including their economy. So they're whether they want to be or not, they're active participants in this war. And there's going to be a red line where they go, all right, I understand regional disputes and the stupid shit the cowboy Americans are doing and the Zionist influence and all this, but now you guys are fucking with us. All right.
Yep.
Now we got a problem with you. And so when that happens, which is what I predicted on like day one of this, is I had hoped that they would come to the table, China and Russia, and go, hey, look, let's work through this. But if that doesn't happen and we basically turn the whole country of Iran into a humanitarian crisis, there's going to be osmotic pressure of Iranian refugees to go into China. And China's not going to like that too much. So that's going to cause a lot of regional instability in their country, as well as, pushing up into the Caucasus, the lower Caucasus states and Turkey and Kurdistan and everywhere else, and into Syria and into Iraq. It's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people.
I don't think it's only going to be. Oh, sorry. I don't think it's only going to be Iran, though. You got Saudi Arabia, all the Gulf states. They're going to be waylaid. And I've heard numerous things saying the same thing that you just said is going to occur for all the Gulf states. And it's going to end up exploding into Europe and everywhere around with, not to mention millions and millions of people that could potentially be killed out of this. I mean, not just in Iran, but the Gulf states themselves. If they destroy all this desalination plants, those people are, they got 3 days.
Yeah. And the Israelis too. And, we have to kind of level set and snap a line to remind everybody that being anti-Zionist, belligerent Israel doesn't mean that we hate Jews. Okay. And this is the psyop that the Israeli government tries to perpetuate, is somebody saying they have a problem with a ethno state, projecting force and genocide onto their neighbors is somehow racist. Nobody cares about the yarmulke wearing guy that goes down to the, his local synagogue to worship or whatever, your everyday American or your everyday whoever, a religious person, a Catholic, a Protestant, a Muslim, a Jew, whatever. Nobody that is against this aggression is saying that, we're mad and we don't like Jewish people. So let's just get that out of the way, because we have to be able to talk to this with a full-throated, clear voice 100%. And specifically talk to the real problem. And the problem is literally it is a holy war, if you think about it. The Jews want to just eliminate the Muslims. And so right now they're getting American support. So we're going to go after Iran. But, they also went to war with Egypt. They also attacked Jordan. They also attacked, like all of their neighbors, right? And this isn't going to just end. Even if China and Russia, let's just take them out of the picture and say, you're on your own, whatever, which isn't going to happen, especially in Russia, because they have great influence in Syria and, and everywhere else. We'll talk about that in a different thing. But
right.
The Israelis are not going to stop eliminating their Muslim neighbors until there's no Muslim neighbors left. And the Muslims are going to wake up at some point and go, you know what? Fuck this shit. And they're going to respond. And now, again, on the other end of that, you're going to have Israeli civilians that are going to be, they blew up our desalination plants and everything else. So to me, I see human suffering on either side of this political religious thing. But the bigger thing that, macroeconomically, you think about all the pressure that BRICS has put on the American reserve currency. If we go and we level Iran, which we're capable of doing, the BRICS nations are going to cluster up, combine, and they're going to form basically an Arab version of NATO. They're going to form a pact, and I would predict that China and everybody else is going to dump their U.S. debt, and as a humiliation exercise, they're going to expect any payment for those bonds and debts to be made in BRICS currency. Just fuck the United States and the global economy. Now, I haven't participated, and nor do I really care about the Bilderberg and the Bank of England and all, and all this other macroeconomic stuff. But just from the perspective of how many nations would cluster up into BRICS, this is like a recruiting tool for BRICS. And then to have them go, you know what? Not only do we not need America, but in order to be a member of BRICS and be part of this new trading bloc, you're not allowed to do business in U.S. dollars. You have to disavow it. You have to liquidate it. And, there's going to be very strong constraints against any U.S. or Western trade. And I could see this being a solidarity movement where the Arab nations cluster up and they go, any Westerners, if you're a member of NATO, fuck you, right? If you supported this in any way, fuck you. If you're in the UN, fuck you. And you're done. And we're just going to go it alone. And now we're going to have a bipolar world with a multipolar, contested superpower geopolitical space. And it is going to cause 30 years of economic and literal strife. And, dozens of countries. And this is not just going to be, we blow up Iran like Team America. Yeah, America. Right. We go fuck some shit up and then, then they bend a knee to us. It's absolutely not going to happen.
Well, I think one thing you can see already that supports what you're saying, I'm watching it today, is, we've had the S&P 500 has been trending down all day. Gold is actually starting to trend up. And that to me reflects that either way out of this, no matter what happens, whether Trump nukes or hits Iran or Israel hits Iran tonight, continues to do it even harder, or he doesn't, gold is going to go up because the dollar is headed lower. And I think because of what you just said about the BRICS is exactly true. No matter what, the US dollar is going to be worth less going forwards. And unless we somehow totally annihilate Iran and everybody in the world says, oh, that's fine, which I don't think there's a chance in hell of that happening. But
either of those cases, the total wipeout and the kudos.
Yeah. But I wanted to
we're turning ourselves from an American governmental perspective. We are turning ourselves into the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that fits that too, Pete, is the I think Trump is trashing our financial system.
Oh yeah.
Because either way, and not just the dollar, but I'm talking the financial system, because right now with Trump doing everything he's done, no matter which way he goes, why would you as a foreign investor put any money in the US stock market, knowing that the guy leading the country is constantly manipulating financial markets to his benefit, either direction? You can't have any confidence in anything if you've got people in the White House constantly front running the market back and forth, making everybody bounce all over the place. But this comment, I wanted to talk to this guy, MPG Stewart put up, about, we shouldn't take him serious and that Trump is the chief troller. I think the thing is even if he is the chief troller, it's still conduct unbecoming and unacceptable. It's not acceptable for a president to talk the way Trump's been talking. And that's why, even if
in
he's
public, because it's like Dick Nixon was a potty mouth and others potty mouths, but we're not talking about potty mouth stuff. That thing, and I'm not a gilded lily. Somebody curses, they curse. But when I saw that, I said, dude, you didn't have to do that. The worst thing you could have done is compose it that way.
Correct.
And I don't really know why he did it that way, because anybody with an IQ over 105 can look at an adult's work and say, well, that person is childlike, given that he's the president of the United States. Childlike in a bad way.
Right. Right. You know, one thing I was thinking we could talk about while we're waiting for Steve here is to me, the most interesting thing that I'm seeing through this whole thing with Iran is it's bringing people of opposing political views together. Like friends of mine that or been against Trump the whole time that I've been supporting Trump, we've all come into agreement about being against Iran. And it's interesting to me how it's dissolving some political boundaries, but it's creating new ones. Like I've got friends that are vehemently MAGA Israel supporters or whatever you want to call them. And, they can't even talk about it. Yet I've got friends that are liberals that are like, we're suddenly on the same page as far as stopping Iran and stopping Trump from being a madman. I think that's I don't know if you guys got any thoughts on that. But.
All right. Well, let's start with what the alleged intent was. We're going to go in. We're going to take out this terrorist regime. We're going to depreciate their nuclear capability. Okay, so nobody has a problem with a bunch of fundamentalists not having nukes, but the reality is the Chinese went in and took all the nuclear material out of Iran. The Chinese have armed North Korea, and if Iran needed any nuclear offensive capability, the Chinese would just ship a bunch of missiles with nuclear, payloads right across the border, and then Iran would have them. We're not blowing up China, and we're not blowing up Russia, and we're not blowing up North Korea, but there's no reason for the Iranians to develop a nuclear weapon. There's literally no. I mean, let's just assume that the fundamentalists had this great idea that they wanted to be a nuclear power so that they could wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Let's go with that premise for a moment. We had the Stuxnet attack, and then we had these two different attacks on where their alleged nuclear capabilities were. And the night before we blew up all those all those air ducts in the mountain or whatever. There was a whole bunch of Chinese and Russian freighters that landed in Iran, rolled in off of turned off their EIBR or whatever you call your little tracking thing. They left like commercial aircraft, and then they went off grid, and then they landed in Iran, and then they flew out, and then the next day the Americans blew up a bunch of shit. So I think it's awfully disingenuous of Trump to say that we're doing this because we need to eradicate this nuclear capability in Iran when we've had at least 3, maybe 4 different independent, massive, sophisticated strikes against them, and we've literally murdered their entire royal family. And with the mullahs and with the whole chain of command, the whole kind of pyramid structure of Iranian leadership, you do have to kill a lot of people to get rid of whatever that institutional thought and rot may be. But it looks like we've done that, right? It looks like we've killed all the leaders that are relevant. We've blown up all the places that they say these nukes were. We've blown up all the things that are enablers of these really sophisticated weapon programs. So why now are we saying, hey, Iran, we're going to help you by blowing up all your fucking oil production, electrical grids, bridges, like all the shit that civil society needs to exist, because we don't want Iran to have nukes. It's cartoonish and bombastic.
Yeah, you called it. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of people in the Trump wagon that is not looking at that way. It's just going, this is what he says, and God's with him and all this. And I don't think this is the right thing. I don't think this is close to the right thing. And what we will be doing is not only bringing Russia and China together, as you mentioned, but there will be consequences here or not here, back in North America, there is no upside, or there is no rational upside, is my little chalk mark on the board. If you have no rational upside, why are you playing with your guns?
Yeah.
We've allowed this country to kill Kurds and Uyghurs and Christians and
Everybody
for
who's out there.
decades.
Yep.
For decades. And now we have, now we gotta go just kill a bunch of civilians now. That's a good plan.
Yeah, I put up that post. The guy is saying depriving Russia of an ally and China of an ally, and I think everybody in the audience should know. None of us are like Iran lovers here. We're not like, oh yeah, we want to join Iran. We all obviously want to keep the United States in a strong position, but the problem that I see, and I'm sure you guys do too, is if we lose the moral high ground, we're not going to be able to keep the high position strategically either. And that is going to actually strengthen Russia and China in the end. Sorry, I've got some little guys in the background here, but
no worries. Yeah, and I mean in Russia and all of this, I think they've exercised incredible restraint in a lot of different ways. But remember, the Iranian intelligence services, their cybercrime capable or the cybercrime, their cyber warfare apparatus is just as sophisticated as the Chinese and the Russians. And remember, we still have a lot of very antiquated infrastructure. I do threat assessments for a living, and one of the things that I'm frequently pulled into is grid assessment and control capabilities. So that you don't just supplant that stuff. And the interesting thing about it is we could literally have a congressional mandate that we're going to upgrade all the PLCs, controllers, infrastructure, logic units, all the things that control our power, our water, our pumping, our everything else, and just start installing things. But we don't do that. We have countries or companies like Siemens and Square D and others that are major corporations, and they sell these massively expensive, solutions, which I don't fault any capitalist for making money or for identifying a problem and then monetizing a solution for it. But from the perspective of national security and seeing this firsthand, and the fact that we have CISA and we have the Nuclear National Security Administration, we have the Department of Energy, we have all these other major cabinet level bureaucrats that are seeing the same thing, the same homeland security threat across our entire country, including Canada. And there's such a simple apparatus fix for it. And if you think we can't do something like upgrade our electrical pump, natural gas, fuel, and every other grid at scale, look at how much money we've spent on these fucking data centers. If you go all the way back to Obamacare, remember part of that was they were going to build these massive data centers, these record control data centers that, the Obama website for the Affordable Care Act. And then there was like 3 or 4 other of these multi-billion-dollar efforts. Nobody knows where the money went. But just to invent this infrastructure to solve a soft problem, we definitely have the capability to just buy these commercial off-the-shelf components and the integration, the solution provider services to solve these major big problems. And the stuff works. I mean, these major corporations sell it, and they have solution providers that integrate it already. And we're not doing anything. I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is that we're not doing anything to harden or protect ourselves in a material, meaningful way that we are capable of to protect ourselves against the onslaught of a not unhinged, but unbridled and unleashed Russian, Iranian, North Korean, and Chinese cyber attack on our grid. We have the capability. We should have started this 10 years ago, and we haven't. So that could lead into all of the other conspiratorial discussions about, well, maybe this is by design. Maybe we're trying to bait them into doing that. So, we can implement the Orwellian control grid or whatever. But the fact is that we know that's a real threat. We have a real solution for it, and we're not following through, but we're instigating a higher probability of attacks against those known weaknesses. It's fucking
pouring
insanity.
gasoline on the fire.
Absolutely. I think it's coming. It's just a matter of time. It's, no matter what way Trump moves now, I think grid attacks are coming against us eventually, just sooner or later. But, we lost Troop. Well, hopefully Steve's going to be joining us soon. Pete, you got any other words, things, or thoughts?
No, other than just, I don't think the president recovers from this. I think there's just too much stupid. Guys, I'd
I
like to keep
agree.
it short. There's just too much stupid in what he's done this time.
I
And,
see him. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
and I've been monitoring, reading about him since I went to New York City to go for law school and then all that stuff, working in Morgenthau's office and all that stuff. And I like a guy with pizzazz. I like him, and I've found out about him when the Woolman rink in Lower Central Park. City couldn't get it done in 2 years. He promised to get it done in 6 months, and he got it done in 4 months. And okay, this is a guy who's out, and wants to do things, wants to make money for himself, but he's not about making things worse for people. And I'm still appalled at just how much change there has been from when he got inaugurated in January of 25, and now it's April of 26, so we aren't even at a year and a half, and there's a different guy there. And I'm not saying spooky, but different guy. He has been talked to. I think that's the fundamental Trump fault. He's been talked to and massaged intellectually to come up with ideas that if he weren't so gullible, he wouldn't find himself in this. I mean, he was turned into the modern Trumpy, because the not so modern Trumpy wouldn't be talking about, literally tearing down, blowing up Iran. And it's 90 million people, something like that.
Right.
And it's just, it's a very big disappointment for me with him, simply because I can put off a lot of nonsense. There's a couple things I can't tolerate and wouldn't tolerate, and that's the concern I have had since the October 7th Gaza thing. Because once it turns out that the IDF actually did have knowledge of what's going on, and what was it, 4 hours? They don't stand back for 4 hours. Well, sure.
Green flag. Bracken nailed that. Green flag.
Absolutely.
And
let it happen.
And when you got that going on, and then you go into Gaza, and you don't hurt children for nothing, and they did. They killed them, and the unarmed people, especially unarmed females. That's not my kind of guy. That's not my kind of ally. That's no. And I think, especially if there isn't some sort of, I don't want to say 180-degree change, but a significant change, because I don't think Trumpy knows how to change. And I think we are going to have a 25th Amendment problem here sooner rather than later. And if it's not during this, remainder of 26, it's going to be one hellacious November 26 midterms, because this isn't good, and nobody in their right mind should be signing him up. But in any event, welcome aboard.
Yeah, we see you, Scott. Well, yeah, what's your thoughts today as we wait for this deadline tonight?
It's full on crazy town. It is. When you're at a point that, Tuesday, we used to have Taco Tuesdays, but now Tuesday is Bridge and Power Plant Day, and we need to destroy your entire civilization. It's like, who in the world talks like that?
Right.
But you get to keep Taco Day, because Trump always chickens out. Took me a long time to find the definition of taco. Yeah, he's going to taco, but that's my contribution to the Taco Tuesday.
That's it, exactly. Well, see, the only way we could tell time on the carrier was Saturday was pizza day, but every other day is exactly the same. And they're like, oh, must be Saturday. There you go.
I was stuck on it, just to be tangential just for a moment. I was on an anti-piracy detail from the Port of Jebel to like Beaumont, Texas. We were stuck on this big merchant marine ship for like a month, and it's so monotonous. And the only way we could really tell what day it was is every Monday you had to strap on this big like orange man floaty suit thing, and then they would drop the two survival boats off the side and get the fire hoses and hose down the deck and all that other stuff, and and then put them back, and then you had to go back in your room that was like this big by this big, and a quarter
Yep.
of it was dedicated to this just Gumby suit that you had to wear. That was like the high point of the of the week. Was you got to see the other, I was on a 12-man team of people, and then there was 11 guys that ran that whole boat, or the ship, as the first mate would call it. Don't call it a boat. But it's just so fucking monotonous that that's like one thing you have to look forward to, and then the mess hall, or the galley as they referred to it.
Yeah. Well, the best thing all aviators wear was call it the boat because it would piss the ship guys off. No, it's a ship. Yeah, it's a boat or a boat. So
To an
always
army
a
guy,
good
it's a
time.
boat.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. A buddy of mine is sending me a message. He's listening to us. He wants to talk about the fact that we CIA's Operation Ajax had overthrown the prime minister back then.
Mossadegh, or I can't pronounce it, but back in 53.
Yeah, Mohammed whatever you call his name,
Right.
Mossadegh or whatever it was. I don't see it as altering the current situation though. The current thing I think is right now is Trump's behavior as a madman basically is the key.
Yes.
Key problem.
The problem is with the American president.
I've had this crazy idea. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm being facetious somewhat, but sometimes I find it, it's like, why don't the Russians just nuke Israel and end this whole thing? I mean, just drop a bomb on Israel and suddenly the whole purpose of the war would cease to exist. But I don't know.
I see Egypt. I see Egypt holding its tongue right now, and Egypt, I'm going to predict, is going to enter as an active hostile participant in this if it continues to degrade.
Well, what about Turkey? I mean, I think Turkey.
I was going to go there exactly. I mean, Turkey's no joke.
They know they're the next they're on deck. If Iran loses, the Israelis have already kind of been pointing fingers at Turkey.
Yep, that's it.
Well, again, the Arab nations are going to confederate, and they're going to form basically their own NATO, and Israel's going to be the new Russia from that perspective. And I've had conversations with lots of Russian associates of mine, and they say, we try to join NATO, troop, and they didn't want to give us a seat at the table because we're the main course. They're without having a Russia or a great evil, there's no need really for NATO. And I think the Arabs are going to kind of take that and turn it around and have their own version of it.
Yeah,
that I wouldn't doubt. I think one of the wild cards is if Iran pulls out all the stops and they start going after the power plants of all the Gulf countries and takes out the desalination. I mean, now it's essentially you're into a war of attrition where those they'll have to move because you got 3 days without water and you're done. You can do 3 days, 3 weeks without food, or in my case, 5 weeks. And, it's one of those that it's almost like the mad doctrine, the mutually assured destruction. If you guys come after us that hard, we're coming right back at you, and nobody wins at that point.
I'm just surprised the Russians and the Chinese haven't done more yet. I mean, they're doing a lot, but it seems to me they could bring this whole conflict to an end if they took certain steps, and they haven't done any of those as far as I can tell.
I believe they're going to enter into the conversation.
They will. I think they want Israel to get pounded into the ground before they come and broker a truce and a ceasefire and end of terms for both parties.
And that is a question that I've not been able to find a reliable answer. How depleted are the Israeli forces, both on a military side, and I assume there's lots of commercial and other economic stuff. I mean, are they really as hurt as I think they may be?
I think they are, because they're fighting in all directions. You know,
Right.
they're still going into Lebanon. They're bombing there. They're still, playing, genocide in Gaza, and they go into Beirut, as much as possible. And, they still play in Syria. It just, they're all over the map. So they're spread thin. And I think part of the thinking, at least from China, and that was kind of my theater, was the whole Taiwan Straits issue, is that China's just biding their time because they're getting into the window of April and May when it's easier to cross the Taiwan Straits. And with us spread out all over the globe and stretched super thin throughout the Middle East, I mean, now's a prime time for them to go and take over Taiwan. And I think that may be in a backroom deal. And my gut still tells me it's okay. Xi, you guys get Taiwan, Russia, you get Ukraine in the middle. We're going to let Europe hang out to dry, and Trump, you get all of North and South America. Enjoy. Maybe Greenland. We'll see.
Yeah, I've had those same kind of thoughts, wondering if there's something like that going on.
Because it's too much kabuki theater to believe it. I mean, there's if you wrote this as a screenplay and tried to sell it to, even Tom Clancy, he's like, get out of here. No, there's absolutely no way that it happens like this. It just doesn't. But here we are.
Yeah,
If it was about literally, doing something unpopular, something that's going to have these geoeconomic consequences for the right reasons, then Trump's false perception that he hasn't lost any of his MAGA base would be true. It's like, hey, you know what? We're going to suffer for this a little bit, but we got to do this for the greater good. It's that litmus test of what is the greater good. And I don't think any reasonable person who's looking at this can see any good whatsoever coming out of this from this point forward. The sad thing is there's really you can't walk this back. If Trump goes through and he prosecutes all these targets as he said he's going to do, and you're dealing with a fundamentalist government who's not looking at this like the Chinese and the Russians would, like, well, this is an economic decision. We may have to bend the knee to the Americans. Otherwise, this is going to really, really fuck us. They're not going to capitulate. And if he follows through and he attacks Iran, and all the Arab nations now realize that they are legitimately, and from their perception, a holy war against the West and the Zionists, this is going to have cataclysmic consequences. And it's not just, we can't just have a conference call, let's get some mediators on the phone and let's work through this. Okay, sorry, my bad, that I killed all the school kids and everybody. But, where can we go forward from this? There's not going to be any going forward from this. This is going to be a fight to the death. And I still believe that, the Iranians don't have targeted nuclear capability. They don't have vehicles that they can put legitimate kiloton bombs on that are designed to air detonate over a target. But they do have dirty nuclear material that they can just pull out of the power plants they have now, put them on all these basically fucking Scud missiles that they could launch at Tel Aviv, and then have the Israelis just shoot them out of the sky right over their home city. And now that place is going to be uninhabitable for 350 years. And then once that happens, then what's going to happen next. It's going to be the Samson option. And at that point, this is, I think, what concerns me the most is once the situation gets discombobulated to that point, it isn't just I'm surprised all the Democrats aren't talking about all the environmental damage of all these wars and all these things that we're blowing up, right? It's okay if we're destroying the earth to kill these people we don't like, it's okay. But once you release nuclear material or radiation of any type of substance into the atmosphere, there's no going back from that.
Well, there's no containing it either. It's a global problem. Once it gets out, it's not like the wind stops blowing and it doesn't take the material all the way around the globe, because it will. And the other piece too, it's like if Iran really wants, they can phone a friend called Bring Hello Pakistan. Yeah, remember those nukes you said you guys had? How much? I need 3 or 4. Can you deliver them Thursday? Yeah, we can do that.
I heard a good. There was an interesting Twitter post I saw that I think it was that Patricia Marin lady or whatever was posting. She thinks that Iran already has nukes, and they're just
I do
waiting.
too.
They're just
I
waiting.
do too.
But you know, I was going to put my Michael Yon hat on for a little bit. Is I feel like that they're going to where this war is going to the place that's going to cause the depopulation that Mike has talked about, and then that's the goal for the globalists, Zionists, whatever you want to depopulationists.
Yep.
I think that's where we're headed, and if you use Jan's paradigm, it kind of guides you to where the outcome is going to go. And so far, everything keeps marching in that direction.
What ice cave are you going to live in though if this goes down? Worst case scenario, like where on the planet are these people going to live after all these nuclear weapons are released?
In your garage.
That's it. Come to Texas. The best last place to live, Texas.
Is it? I was thinking New Zealand, but
No, I think that they went jab crazy down there along with Australia. Australia was absolutely fantastic back, in the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, that place was awesome. It's like Perth, Australia. It's like San Diego with a tenth of the people, and they're all friendly. It was fantastic.
I think but if enough Americans just move there, we can change the dynamics. We just need to load up a bunch of sailboats, like Bracken says, and load them up with ARs and head to New Zealand.
Yeah, get out there. Well, as long as they don't have all the dangerous, the most dangerous animals and reptiles on Earth on the planet in Australia. So, a quick side story. So, we're on this Rottnest Island, doing a little bike tour and all that, and come down to this little thing, and I see this brown snake, and it's kind of crawling around. It's like 3 feet from me and all that, and it's like it was really cool to watch. Snakes doing snake stuff. Then I get back in the taxi cab, and he's like, "Oh, mate, that's the most dangerous snake in the whole world." It's like, oh, great. I was 3 feet away from it. Fantastic.
Well, shoot, I'm starting to run out of words, guys. I thought Murray was going to jump on. He said he was going to jump on a while ago, but
he could. If I can get back the nuclear thing for a quick second.
Yeah.
So one moment. I'm going to be off for about 5 minutes.
All right. See you.
But so they always telegraph what they're doing. And so if you remember, 4 or 5, 6 weeks ago, and they authorized the F-35 is now authorized to carry the B-61 nuclear bomb, and it's one of those like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. And let's see, who has F-35s? Let's see, Israel does. Okay. Who has B-61 dial yield nukes? So Israel does. And I really think that's where it's going to go. It's going to be one of those like, hey, well, look, we're stealthy. We only have to send one. And, they telegraph this crap all the time, even if, to not nerd out completely with what Hollywood does, but go back to the Iron Man movie when they have the one F-35 with the one nuclear weapon that's going to go in and blow up the aliens that came through the wormhole in outer space. And then they, take the nuclear bomb up and it goes through the wormhole and yay, everybody wins. But okay, it's like, is that foreshadowing for what's coming in the future? Just a number of years ahead.
Yeah, 100%. Agree. Pete, you got any other thoughts? Oh, shoot.
I'll just gin something up here. It's what time is it now? It's almost 11 here, so I'm a little worn down, but there's the boss.
Oh, hey, there he is.
I just went to In-N-Out. I figured, fuck it. If Mango's going to blow up the world, I'm getting a cheeseburger.
There you go. Double animal style, baby.
Yeah, Coke and fries all the
you
way.
Look like you're in a porn lair.
In a what?
In a porn lair.
Well,
wait for that cheesy porn music to start. Chicka pow, chicka pow, chicka pow.
But I just want to reassure everybody that I actually am clothed below the chin, so that's a good thing. This is my fabulous studio here in Budapest. which actually
That's
is
right.
very
You're
nice.
still in.
If you ever need a studio in Budapest, I can put you on with these people because they're nice people. It's very well cleaned and cut, and you're half to 3/4 of a mile of a bunch of interesting stuff. So anyway, that's the pitch for B&B.
So I walked into my house and I heard all these voices, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I didn't realize you guys had started. So I finished my cheeseburger, and here I am.
Perfect.
So, do we expect the world to blow up tonight? Today? I mean, Mark Levin's talking about using nuclear weapons. So
I think
Well,
I
if Mark's on it, hell, I'm in there.
Mark's on it. Don't worry, Dan Bongino's on the job. He's going to
Oh,
solve
yeah.
it for us.
absolutely, Bongino's on the job. Yeah, I just think the rhetoric's interesting. I was talking to a buddy of mine up in Washington. And he's like, everybody's going full tard right now because they don't know what Trump's going to do. And
Well, but he's always been the president of chaos, and normally he used to thrive in chaos, but now it's beyond chaos. It's into madness. Chaos we could deal with, but when you get into Mad Hatter madness, which is I think where he's at right now, and I think part of it too is his deep anger, and he is so pissed off that he got talked into this that it's going to be we're going to be done by Monday. It'll be fine. And that was what, 35 days ago? Yeah. How's that going?
any one of us military officers, if we were in the room and that was being sold to the president, we all would have stood up and said, "Yeah, that's bullshit. That's
Yeah.
that's not real."
Everyone does the bullshit cough.
I
Bullshit.
don't know who the nutless monkey is that sold you this, but this is a complete lie. And rule number one: shoot the good idea fairy before you step off the line of departure, because he will always get you killed. And here we are, what, a month into this? And I mean, there's a difference between being desperate for an off ramp and just losing your fucking mind. And he's lost his fucking mind. That's the only thing you can say. When you're hearing the 25th Amendment and literally and seeing it in every other post on True Social and on X, you know that they burn the resource.
Yeah.
And if I look at this objectively, I see pawns in the game. You burn the resource when you don't need it anymore.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what they're doing. I don't know. That's what I see. Call me crazy.
Well, I think part of it too is that and we all know as you get up past 06, it turns into a political game. And I always looked at it as you have operators and you have administrators. And you built up all the administrators throughout the Biden regime, all the, the pace eating retards that make it to 3 and 4 star. And
Of course we lose.
Scott.
Oh,
all the retards that make it to 3 and 4 star.
That is priceless, because that is right on cue. Ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by the National Security Agency.
Yep. Hey, he's coming back, it looks like.
That is too funny. That is too damn funny. Well, I didn't catch the whole conversation, but I do think it's very interesting that we're in this place where you have Mark Levin talking about nuclear weapons. You have Trump talking about hitting civilian targets, which we haven't done since World War II. And when we did it in World War II, it was okay because, Germans are bad, Japan is bad, allies are good, everything's fine. This, you can't sell this because we're not at war. Remember, they told us we're not at war. We're not at war. So there's no good answer here to any of the rhetoric that's coming out of the White House. And his Sunday message was reprehensible. Did you guys see that?
Good
absolutely.
choice.
How did
Reprehensible.
you not see it?
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to post some screenshots onto the feed, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, there
If
we
I
go.
had, I probably would have accidentally ended the stream.
Yeah, so I listened to part of Tucker's I listened to part of Tucker's show on yesterday, and of course, all of the Israel paid pastors and Reverend Umpty Frats, they're all coming out calling him, he's a fake pious. I mean, you could set your watch to it. And so this was Trump's message. And you can't make this shit up. And I checked his True Social to see if it's out there. It's out there.
Yep.
Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. Who writes that shit? Who? This
And
is why,
Easter.
dude.
That might be him, actually.
If I was his chief of staff, I would rip that fucking phone out of his hand and break every one of his fucking fingers so he couldn't post anything for the rest of his life. My God. God, talk about burning the bridge you're standing on with a blowtorch. Man.
And how does he course correct from this?
You don't.
Yeah,
And
he's
Truth
finished.
was right. You can't course correct. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part was his spiritual advisor, this fucking loon bag. I can't even remember her name, comparing him to the Messiah.
Yeah.
Like, bitch, you have lost your fucking mind. What is wrong with you? My God. And we've had presidents with massive egos. We've had them. But this takes it to a whole new level of depravity that you just can't even cover with words. There's no adjectives to describe just how crazy, batshit crazy the people are around him. And you have to wonder how much of this is scripted to destroy his credibility, how much of this is being architected like pawns in the game, and how much of it is really him. And is he really that crazy? Because if for Mark Levin to talk about comparing World War II to where we are now and saying that Truman using the bomb saved millions of American lives, that's a dangerous message. Because once you let the genie out of the bottle, there's no coming back from that. And again, this would drive the war in a direction that even Trump doesn't know the second and the third order effects of. And let's just say, for all intents and purposes, he is stupid enough to give the order to drop bombs on Tehran and kill millions of people. You're never coming back from that. And you just created insurgents all around the world that will destroy our country. They will come here and destroy our country. They will make it a mission. It will be a religion to do that. And they're not going to look at Trump and say, it's okay. They're going to look at the American people and say, why don't you stop this guy? Which is the right answer.
Right.
And
Well, and what is it going to take to get people up and off their couch to actually do something?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I thought, I said this on Crypto Rich's show yesterday. I thought that when the world found out, especially the US found out that our entire government was run by pedophiles, they would come off the couch. But no, it's fine. There's no rules, there's no laws against people partying with Jeffrey Epstein.
Exactly. Thank you, Todd.
So
Todd Blanche.
he's not going to prosecute anybody. You think that would piss people off? It's fine. It's fine. So there's pedophiles running our government. So what? It's fine. We'll just vote them out of office. Okay.
Bread and circuses.
I'm telling you, I don't know what it's going to take for people to come off the couch, but half of these people should have been in Gitmo already. I mean, if you look at the current situation, again, I'm spitballing here because there's no historical context for anything we're seeing right now. But if I look at the bigger picture right now, it explains a lot why Hegseth is relieving general officers almost on a daily basis, and why the rhetoric is getting more and more fanatical. And that is, I think that the general officers that have been relieved have said, no, we're not doing a ground invasion. We're not dropping bombs. We're not doing any of that. We're not hitting civilian infrastructure. I would rather resign than attack innocent civilians. And that's what I see happening right now. And whoever is around the president is not bringing him back to reality and setting his feet back on the ground, because for him just to tweet what he tweeted is reprehensible. Even if he wasn't president, it would be reprehensible. And no one's, have you seen anybody in Washington, anyone come out and say anything against what he said on Easter Sunday? No one.
No one.
Nope.
So it means they're all in on it.
Silence is consent.
That's a dangerous precedent. It's a very dangerous precedent. So if he ends up nuking them tonight, which I've heard both ways, that yes and no. So I don't know which way it's going to go. But when I heard that this morning, I'm like, I think I'm going to go get a cheeseburger.
I'm just going to watch the Weather Channel and see where it's 4,500 degrees and partly cloudy.
SPF 5,000.
Hey, who knows? This could be our last ever RT,
Yeah, you never know. Yeah.
This is a cheerful outfit here.
It is. Our next RT is going to be smoke signals.
And by the way, I think Sharita's out in the audience, American Forecasting. She has called all this shit out almost 2 months ago. If you go to her American Forecasting channel on Rumble, she'll run you through the dates. And we're in the dates right now that she ran through almost 2 months ago now. So there is something to this, and a lot of this aligns with the astrological chart. And I know people think I'm crazy. I don't give a fuck at this point if they think I'm crazy or not. Our enemy uses that to plan their events. And she has literally called out that Trump is in the same kind of a year that our country was in when it was formed in 1776. And she called it out a couple of times. So go out to her channel, listen to her last 5 updates. I guarantee you're going to hear something that's probably going to make you think twice. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's satanic. And you know what? Every other part of the world uses astrology and numerology to plan events. Every other part of the planet, except for the US and except for the Western world. It's yet another lie that's been sold to Christianity. And there's got to be a point where people look at this and try and figure it out so we can get ahead of the enemy. But, call me crazy. So I'm just seeing events line up, and I'm seeing things happening. And I'm literally in awe that people haven't come off the couch yet. So,
and look how it took something like 9/11 to finally get people fired up to do something. And that was, 25 years ago. And now I think everyone's just numb to it. The news cycle changes and rolls so fast. I mean, half the people now are like, Epstein, what? Yeah, that's over. We're moving on.
Yeah. What if all this rhetoric is so they can pull off the big attack on the US?
I think absolutely.
Yeah. I think the rhetoric is so they can conduct some kind of an attack here and justify it as it was rain or it was all those constructs that were created by the intelligence agencies. That would be a good justification.
You got Sarah Adams out barking again.
Yep.
Saying, oh, no, it's coming. Yeah, this is definitely going to happen. Sowing the seeds and prepping the battlefield.
And you notice how every time that she comes out and says that bullshit, it's always the same message. Okay, if the big attack happens, the CIA told you, but it's not them.
Exactly.
It's not them.
It was some other kids.
It's these assholes. Look over here. Those are the assholes that did it. It wasn't the CIA that funded and is still paying Al Qaeda and the Taliban. No. It wasn't. It wasn't the CIA that created ISIS. No. It was those guys. It was those guys. You're right. You just set your watch to that stupid shit. So, I don't. It's like the NASA stuff right now, right? NASA's cheering. They're going around the moon. They just get eviscerated, and they get ratioed on social media every time they post something because nobody believes them. They have no credibility. Like, oh, hey, look at this. This is a great picture of the Earth. They're like, that was taken in 1969. You want to try another one? Same picture.
What else you got?
Can you explain this? NASA, silent. So same shit. There's no credibility left. And, Trump destroying the last bit of his credibility. If they do pull off the big attack, who's going to believe it's Al Qaeda, or nobody's going to believe it's Iran? Everybody's going to look at Mossad and go, it's those motherfuckers right there. That's what I'm going to do, because that's who it is. So, yeah. True. Welcome back. You picked a good day to travel because you're going to be off grid when the world blows up.
Yeah, all my trooper training hopefully will not need to come into play there.
Yeah. All right. Any forecasts on what we think is going to develop today? It's nighttime there now. So question is, how do we think that this is going to develop? You think he's going to do anything tonight, or you think it's all rhetoric and it's going to start this weekend?
I'm more worried about the entrapment of the Iranians saying, "Oh, okay, all right, no worries. Go ahead and send the boats. We're sorry," and then wait till that channel's cluttered, and then they just start taking out tankers and any other vessel that's in that targeting range, and then at that point it'll be on. But that's pretty much, other than full capitulation, that's the only card that they have left to play.
Yeah, I heard your analysis based on the dirty bomb theory. I think that's not too far fetched. But folks I've talked to over the last couple of weeks are saying that there is a bomb. That Iranians do have bombs, and they're not giving them up. And did anybody hear this morning that those two 130s that went in, they were going after fissionable material? I heard that twice this morning.
I have my own theory
That's
on
my
that.
gut. Now they were 110 miles away from where the Wizzo backseater supposedly was. Yeah, CSAR, you're going to send in a couple of helicopters, fighter cover, any other, maybe a tanking asset, but that's it. You minimize the footprint because it's one of those, like, you stake the goat to the ground and wait for everybody else to come in. What's going to happen to the goat? And then they all come in to rescue the goat, and then you smoke all those guys. So that's why it's always a small footprint. You're never going to take 100 tier 1 special operators and plant them at 110 miles away from where the quote guy is. Yeah, they were going after the material, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't have the piece that the pilot was 100 miles away, but at this point, nothing surprises me. I think they've been wholesale lying to the public about the casualty count. I think they've been wholesale lying about, what assets we've lost in theater. I mean, the tell is that there's literally no embedded reporters anywhere on any of these ops.
No,
you got to ask the question, why are they blacking this out like that? I mean, even in World War II, there was reporters on the ground on Tarawa, Okinawa, and they were covering what was going on. We're not seeing any of that right now. So, and I heard that we hit Carg Island this morning. I don't even know if that's true. So who knows what's true? Yeah. Anyway.
You want to hear my theory on these C-130s?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, at first, when it was leaked that there was the weapons officer, the second pilot, that hadn't been recovered, I thought that was a ruse to draw the Iranian forces out in the open so that we could engage them. But I believe that they did send that equipment in to rescue that guy, and I think that they already knew those C-130s were going to be on a one-way, And I mean, think about it. You got a couple of operators, but you also have all the weapons and equipment and fuel and everything at that extended range. We've developed these little vehicles, these little tiny, think of like a Razor, a side-by-side for you guys that do off-road stuff, like these little Jeeps, little moon landing looking vehicles that are militarized for this type of activity. All the little birds, all the other helicopters and the other assets. Once you're out of refueler range, you still have an extended range to penetrate in, but you can't get out. And Danger Doug was talking about the feebleness of the landing gear on compromised runways. But my assessment is that they loaded up fuel bladders, heavy weapons, equipment, everything that they needed, and they intentionally ditched these planes in a landing zone that they knew they could safely land, even though they couldn't recover the aircraft. And then from that forward location, they used the fuel bladders and everything they brought with them to fuel up all the assets that they needed to go to recover the guy. And then once they recovered their target, once they achieved their mission, then they just fucking fragged everything and split, left a pile of burning rubble. So I think they just shipped in what they needed to get the guy out, and then they left everything there in a pile of rubble. There was, I believe, it was hastily planned, but well executed recovery mission.
Huh.
Yeah, I got
like
mixed.
gliders in World War II.
Yeah, but I got mixed thoughts on that, right? Why would you burn those? Those 130s are expensive assets, right? They've got lots of capabilities. They're not just transports. They've got other E-link capabilities and the other electronic warfare capabilities. Why would you frag two of those? It doesn't make any sense.
It sends a message what our level of commitment and tenacity is. It was just a political thing. I mean, if it was somebody, like cavalry trooper out there, I don't think I would have got the 5-star recovery treatment. But I do believe that this was a necessary kind of psychological projection. And I mean, those airframe, somebody do a lookup of the tail numbers or whatever those aircraft that were involved, or that were they like a couple of months away from MRO? Or, I mean, what was the status of those airframes? And maybe they picked the two that were, maybe needed a major overhaul anyway, and then they just went on their final little one-way trip. But the only way you could get the resources in there to sustain a forward operation like that is to carry the stuff in, and you're damn sure not going to carry it out. So I think they just loaded up everything that they needed and a couple sacrificial stagecoaches there, and then they went and they did what they had to do. They fueled up everything, and then they fragged everything, on their way out. So that's my theory. I have nobody's shared any information with me to inform my opinion on that. That's just my assessment.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of conjecture on it. Nobody's confirmed anything either. So just a lot of people expressing opinions. With so much misinformation, disinformation, it's hard to know what's true and what's not. I just, and you could be right. Those aircraft could have been into life. So, yeah, it's hard to say.
Well, like I said, I was talking to Doug about this because he was going over. Danger Doug did a pretty extensive assessment of the condition of runways and our military capability for heavy lift. But we fragged a tank in Iraq because we didn't want to leave it to the enemy, right? So what do? You destroy the comms and you start dropping Willie P on the engine block and everything else. You destroy the asset. But there was that I couldn't remember the name of it. Chief knew what it was, but that one mission where we had all the fighter pilots in World War II, and they flew a sortie over Japan, and the idea was they had enough fuel to prosecute the target in Japan and then run out of fuel in China.
That was a Doolittle raid.
Doolittle raid B-24s.
Okay, so this my opinionated assessment is kind of an equivalent to that Doolittle thing. You're gonna fly your guys in there. It's a one-way trip if you fuck it up, but we're going to give you all the gas and the shit you need to get home. All the heavy weapons and everything you need to suppress all the enemies are going to get left there. And you just get your guy out, fly out, and destroy everything that you brought with you to get him out. So kind of a Doolittle scenario in a way.
Yeah, but didn't they also blow up 4 little birds as well?
No, I mean, look, those are I wouldn't say expendable assets, but they're expendable assets.
Well, there's also the rumor going around they flew in a smaller, like a C-27 or a CASA, smaller airplane that could have taken people out. So it's hard to, I don't know. I haven't heard enough to know either way.
I heard it was the Airbus C-295, the twin engine, basically lighter version of the C-130.
Yeah. Something along those lines.
But has that been confirmed? Because I haven't seen that. I've heard a couple of different versions of that. But there was nobody's confirmed. Yeah, this is what happened. I mean, like I said, there's so much disinformation and misinformation being pushed around. It's hard to know what's real and what's not. So
you heard Trump's speech. He laid it all out. This is exactly what happened. And the sand was kind of wet, so they got stuck in the sand. It's like, okay, awesome.
No, I think they picked that adjacent. I mean, 110 miles is nothing with a helicopter. So I think it was definitely a rescue mission. This whole idea of we're gonna land the same aircraft in the same field that's gonna wreck the same landing gear to extract something that's super heavy that we would need a heavy lift to get out. I mean, that doesn't logically make any sense. That was their plan. So it just doesn't make sense at all. That theory.
1,000 kilos is not all that heavy, in comparison to loading up a C-130.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they brought shit hooks in there to carry it out, but I mean, they didn't have any heavy lift helicopters, did they?
No. But my far-on guess is that they were going to go, raid the tunnels, pull all the material out, then load it up on fixed wing and take it out that way.
Well, as far as the economic ramifications of this, there's everything from fertilizer to helium to sulfuric acid to whatever. There's definitely going to be some disruptions in supply chains and maneuvering and stuff like that. But I have a lot of faith in American business to navigate around. And anytime we've had these self-inflicted logistical challenges, it always seems that the people that are investing in the markets that are in the know exactly where to invest and where to disinvest. So not to say there won't be any direct material impacts against our economy or your average American consumer, but I don't think it's going to be some cataclysmic thing. It's just business as usual, whatever. So okay, so we took away these sources of things, and we'll either pivot or we'll go and we'll develop or get other sources of things. And I'm not trying to marginalize the concern for the 30 to 60 day lead and lag time of having the Strait of Hormuz and everything operational in that theater, and then what's going to happen, coming in the next couple of weeks now, and then escalating from there. But I don't think this is going to be some Western famine impact. What it's probably going to do is it's going to destroy a lot of businesses that are in the lower Russell 2000, but the big S&P 500 fish, they're not. They're going to use this as an opportunity to eat those little fish. So there'll be a lot of mergers and acquisitions and a lot of paper transfers of debt and liability. But I don't really see this being as big of an impact from a financial perspective or from a manufacturing and big business perspective as it's being made out to be.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because it's just the resiliency of it. You have to think about the way businesses are structured. They have this thing called going concern. And going concern means that the executives and officers of a company are responsible for assuring the indefinite perpetuity of the company that they serve. And if the exit strategy is to roll debt into companies, which I would probably ask, somebody who's more of a financial analyst this question, has there been any big movements of debt into companies that are going to be most materially impacted by the current world events? And if you see those, if you see that T accounting transfer to these businesses, you're seeing the exit strategy right there. This is basically they're going to use it as a debt write-off plan. It's not. I mean, whether it affects consumers or not is secondary from their perspective. But I could totally see this being utilized to just get rid of a bunch of bad debt. And I mean, it'll fuck the Main Street investor, the 401k holder, and that type of stuff. But I don't see it having any. I see this being integrated and engineered into an overall financial maneuvering strategy.
Certainly possible.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a little more effect than that. Especially, South Texas, we're paying $5.50 a gallon for diesel now,
Really?
which is pretty
Yeah,
ouchy.
we just filled up at I think 617 here in Arizona. My wife has a big, GMC 3500 whatever massive gas tank vehicle, and it was it's like almost $300 to put gas in that thing yesterday.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
Honey, the loan came through. Keep filling it up.
And and diesel's like not what is affected by this. It's ridiculous. And then I also filled up 50 gallons of propane. I brought once a year. I bring all my propane tanks in, and I fill them up, 20 and 30 gallon propane things, and the prices on that haven't gone down, and they're burning off their natural gas and propane in Texas right now in the Permian Basin because nobody will take it. It's the market saturated. So why is that not 98 cents a gallon now? So the whole thing is fucking contrived.
Yes.
I was going to say,
And it's the same thing with jet fuel. So right now I went from $5 a gallon for Jet A, and now we're at $7.10, and that's with all my discounts for our business. And even just the other day, I was over in Houston, and it was almost $10 a gallon for Jet A. And then roll that forward now. What unless you're Southwest and you bought 4 years in advance of fuel futures at a certain price and locked it in, all the other they're last minute gas guys like a Delta, United, American, and now they're paying out the ass for it. And pretty soon that is going to blow back onto the customers, and your $500 round trip San Antonio to Houston and back becomes $1,000 round trip.
yeah, I know the airlines. I mean, I'm pretty sure American, and other companies, Delta, United, they all buy fuel on contracts way ahead of time. So hopefully, that may take a while to finally show up for the average traveling person, but I think once we get like 3 or so months into it, then those contracts they have start to expire. But a question I posted, one guy posted their Tunk, New York or whatever, said if the price of gold is going up in regards to dollars, why aren't stock prices following? My theory, I was watching that today, and my theory for that is that the reason that you're seeing gold going up but stock isn't is because people are seeing badness coming, and gold is typically a safe haven, and they're seeing the dollar probably going down more. So that's going to cause a situation where stocks aren't following gold up. But we'll see. Does anybody else have any comments? I'm starting to run out of things to say for right now. I don't know about you guys.
No, well, if you want to preserve your wealth, gold and silver is the way to do it. Because my gut feeling is that's going to be a safe haven for quite a long time. And don't do it to speculate, but just do it to hang on to what you got.
Which is what
I'm just going to close on hydration, sanitation, temperature control. This is the triad of survival. So having a good amount of fresh, drinkable, ready to consume water, and then going and getting the 55 gallon drums, food safe drums. I buy them from the feed store for like $30. You could buy a new one for $100, but the 55 gallon water safe drums that you can fill up with just your hose water, and that's your bulk water. And then having a minimum of 15 gallons per person in your home, and a goal of 250 gallons of fresh drinkable water. It's all about water at that point. And then the sanitation, having a plan for where are you going to poop and how are you going to utilize your water to bathe, and maintaining your personal hygiene. And then the temperature control, depending on where you live in the country. We're going into hot weather in Arizona. You might still be snowing where you're at. So if you're not on wood and you don't have 10 cords in the backyard, what are you going to do if if the utilities aren't functioning and you can't run your air conditioner or your heater? So hydration, sanitation, temperature control, those are things that are within the immediate reach and capability of everybody that's listening, whether you're in an apartment or you're on a homestead. So focus on that, because you don't want to be the one standing in line at the when FEMA or your local EOC takes over the high school down the street, and you have to stand in line to dole out water or whatever. You don't want to be part of that system. And again, my training and experience in this is that all these disasters last about 5 weeks or they're indefinite. So don't have it in your mind the first thing you're going to do is go run to some imaginary ice cave or hole in the ground, but stand your ground, stay where you're at, put in these basic provisions. And I've said for years, the whole guns and ammo thing, if you got a revolver with 4 bullets in it, you know how to use it, put getting another gun or more ammo at like priority number 100 on your list of shit you need to do, because you're not going to be running out there shooting at Russians jumping out of airplanes. But the basic necessities that you need for you, and we stated it before, even including any prescription drugs or medical things that you may need, just go ahead and get them and have them. You're going to use them anyway. And water above all is the most critical factor. And staying out of the conflict space doesn't just mean not strapping on kit and going and shooting people, but it means not putting yourself in the city space when there's a bunch of desperate people running around looking for water and material support. So you can, just plan ahead.
Well, you made me think of another topic we could maybe talk about for a second here is, because I think we all know, we've all piggybacked on the food, water, ammo thing a million times, is what about decision points that for people, like for me, I'm thinking, okay, just as a pilot, I'm thinking if a nuke goes off in the Middle East, I'm not leaving my family to go fly a trip for a while. That's the thing I'm thinking about. That might be something people in the audience could be thinking about as well. Like if you have a vacation planned and a nuke goes off in the Middle East here in the next few days, I would not leave. And my other comment would be, if I was you and Steve, I would say, if a nuke goes off in the Middle East, I would leave Phoenix. But anyway, what do you guys think about that one?
Well, a couple things. One, I need to get a debrief from Reed Wiseman, Tonto. He's the mission commander for Artemis 2 with their broken toilets. So when you get to hygiene, when you're taking dumps in a bag in space, it should be pretty interesting feedback from that. But I also look at just in part of it being Part 91, flying private, having access to airplanes that have enough range where I could take off from here and end up in Costa Rica if I need to. And it's one, when do you get to that decision point? When do things become so untenable that now I'm packing up mom and the babies and off we go? And hey, I'll leave an IOU for the airplane, and you can come back and collect it later. Should be fine.
100%.
The first 3 days of a disaster, remember, everybody's going to panic. And how does that process go? There's a major event, a nuke went off. Oh no, what do we do? All the bullshit on the news. But you gotta buckle down. And if you don't have a place to evacuate, why would you be trying to evacuate? And why would you want to leave the home or the place that you live that you've spent your whole life investing and indebting yourself to, unless you have to? So at week 1, the roads are starting to open up. Within the first week, if you plan on evacuating a major city, you're probably going to die on one of those roads in gridlock. But you got to wait it out sometimes, unless there's literally a green nuclear cloud that's fixing to come into your zip code and kill everybody, and you have to flee. Don't give up the ship until you have to, and then wait an appropriate amount of time for the information nodes to get established, people to figure out where that old AM/FM radio or some old junker car that has one is, and whatever your information is that you can get to get a good idea what the egress assessment is before you go and you try to run away from home. But again, the plan on having what you need for 5 weeks as a goal is definitely the goal. So,
how about Pete? What do you think about this question of threshold, like decision thresholds or causes of action.
No, I'm tracking because I'm the guy who's in the middle of Central Europe when he should be in the middle of Central Florida. And the fun part about that is it was a combination of mileage and a good price. And you can bet your ass this as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm turning on some sort of source for did Donald have his fun last night? Because I'm about to fall over right now. But I put this out for anybody, whether you're in North America or not. Yeah, if you're at this early stage of what can be a really bad thing or can just be something that goes away, it really does, as folks are saying, it's important for you to have not only the devices that pick up this typical radio, but you know you can use your laptop too. But it's really good to have a set of batteries so that you're not in desperate need for electrical charging of whatever you're using, because if I I don't expect this to happen because there's nothing really going on in Hungary, but if I were starting to get some sort of civil defense type zone, I would just grab basically the one backpack, and I would be getting out of where I am. And I think that's really important for people that travel a lot, is when things start to get weird, make sure you're paying attention to the weird. And on that, I'm going to drop off, gentlemen. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Pete. Have a great night. And I think we're all pretty much spoken everything we have to say. So you guys got any last comments? I'm good to go.
Even though
Have faith
gas is
in God and your
expensive,
training.
fill your wife's gas tank
Yes,
and
sir.
yours.
Yep.
All right. One team,
Thanks,
one
guys.
fight. We'll see you guys.
Thanks all.
Pretty good.
There we go. I finally got it
We're still
stopped.